Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, 8:30 a.m. at City Hall Chambers. At this time, if we'll please stand, and I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Barnaby to give us the invocation, and then we'll do the pledge.
Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, Spirit of justice. We ask your blessings on all who have been called to lead this community in which we live and work and play. Grant the wisdom and courage to know and to do what is right and good and true. May we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. And together the people say, Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and at this time we'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
This morning we have a proclamation for Women's History Month, which I'll read on behalf of the mayor. Women's History Month, March 2024. Whereas women's history has been recognized in the United States since President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring March 8, 1980 as National Women's History Week, and has been officially celebrated as Women's History Month since 1987. Whereas for too long, women were formally excluded from full participation in society and our democracy, and it took the courage of so many bold women who dared to transcend preconceived expectations, so barriers were broken, discoveries were revealed, and progress advanced. And whereas during Women's History Month, we celebrate the countless women who have fought tirelessly and courageously for equality, justice, and opportunity in our nation. We also reaffirm our commitment to advancing rights and opportunities for women and girls in the city of Bradenton and around the world. We are mindful that we are building the legacy of both recognized trailblazers and unsung heroines who have guided the course of American history and continue to shape its future. And whereas throughout history, these women have opened the doors of opportunity for subsequent generations of dreamers and doers. As community leaders, educators, doctors, scientists, child care providers, and more, women power our economy to lead our nation. As first responders and service members, they stand watch over our lives and liberties. As innovators, entrepreneurs, and essential workers in every industry, they represent the very best of America. And whereas the city of Bradenton supports and respects all its women employees, including celebrating its city council consisting of primarily women members. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jean Brown, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as Women's History Month in Bradenton, and urge all citizens to honor the contributions for women in the workplace, community, and their families. Signed, Jean Brown, Mayor.
Thank you. So what I'd like to ask now is all of our councilwomen, as well as all of our staff that are female, to come up front in front of the podium. And good thing, David, you can take the picture, so we don't have to leave Tiffany out. So get everybody up there, and so get a picture. And also our perfectly timed attorney today that is female. So.
Mayor, can I say something?
Sure.
While I'm up here?
Yep.
You know, I've worked in the city government for 38 years, and to be involved and to be part of this leadership group, never thought I'd see it. Never thought I would see it as a young officer starting out, but through the council, you know, I see all these directors, I see all of our staff. I loved the fact this past week that I got beaten up on social media because I hire so many women. I love that it's noticed. I love that we are an example for so many cities in this state and in this country, and it makes me proud.
No, we're all proud, so thank you.
Where are we standing in the back? Or?
I don't know, you guys talk, let's talk.
Corey, up with the women. Corey in with you. Make sure you can see everybody. Yeah, we won't be in it from here.
All right, are we are we okay? Do we need to turn
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of movement on there.
Do it now.
I actually do need it for my allergies are like.
All right, thank you for that, and obviously, thank you for all of your contributions, because the city of Bradenton wouldn't be the friendly city without really the friendly, smiling faces of our ladies, and it's very important. So, Mr. Perry, I'm going to throw it over to you for a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. Colonel, if you could stand, thanks. I've been asked by a lot of folks how the search is going for the top quality candidates for our Public Works Director, and we have a candidate in town today. This is Colonel Irvin Lee, and Colonel Lee currently runs the Space Command out in Colorado Springs for their facility out there. It's a very large, robust facility. He has a very, very extensive resume with government service, both in local governments. He had been a previous Tampa Director of Public Works for the city of Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base, has ties to the community, and he's going to be spending a day with us today over at Public Works, meeting staff over there, seeing what some of our challenges are and the like. So I thought it was great that he was going to be in town this morning, and just to say hello and good morning to council. And if you'd like to say anything briefly, Colonel.
Just thank you. It truly indeed is a friendly city.
Great, yeah, and I have provided his resume, and it's quite impressive.
All right, Mr. Perry, since Colonel got here a little early, maybe, and I know we have something in the back of the room, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of that? I know we were going to talk later, but maybe now's the time to just go over kind of not in detail,
Sure.
but what we're trying to do, and obviously our Public Works and the department is so important to us.
Sure. Well, I don't think it's a secret to anybody that the city is rather old in certain parts. An example of that is that we have, I believe, 62 miles of clay pipe. It's corrosive. It collapses, corrodes, obstructs, and the like. And that's sewerage pipe. We've thus far, over the course of mostly the last 3 years, but probably fully 4 years, have replaced 35 miles of that. And when we say replace, we actually line the pipe when we can. Because it's so aged and it's deteriorated, it's compromising our system from an I&I perspective as well as a distribution and transportation perspective. In addition to that, you have a collection system for your sanitary, it's called sanitary sewer. And typically it'll go to a lift station that transports the sewage water further on towards our treatment plant. So we have 64 lift stations. And each lift station has a lot of different components. There's deep well pits in there. There's a valve system, switch gear, gauges, and obviously pumps. And each one of those is probably I think the approximate value on them is about $2.5 million. So the city sits on $120 million in net asset value of the 64 lift stations itself. So it gets very expensive. Ultimately, it goes to the water treatment plant, and that has a very complex system for treatment to DEP standards, and ultimately discharge of treated water into the river because it's been filtered and cleansed and disinfected. So we've taken on this challenge of trying to address the infrastructure that's related both to the system that deals with collection, the system that deals with treatment, and ultimately trying to get out of the river in its entirety. We have a permit for a deep well injection technology that we'll be putting in place. And that treated water will go into an aquifer, an underground well, a large well, and attenuate further. That's typically how it's done as a matter of process. We also have the Everest Reservoir and our potable water. It's a surface water system. It's unlike the counties. The county is a well system with their wells out by Duet, mostly, so it's underground. That has aged infrastructure too. When you talk about transmission there coming out of the pipes, there's a series of 4 basins and then a stay basin, which is kind of where the water is purified, and then it's transported through our distribution system. Again, aged infrastructure. Those 2 utilities generate about $32 million a year to the city in overall revenue, and we are in the process of spending probably about, when you add everything up, close to $100 million. That's a big number for a city this size. We hope to have that completed probably within 2 to 3 years. Some things we're facing right now that we have to deal with on an emergency basis, and I'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward probably at the next council meeting. But we are in a state of really trying to repair, replace, remediate an aged system of infrastructure. And I think we're in pretty good shape of doing that. We have good people. We have a lot of strategic plans that we're refining even further to try to do this in a strategic as well as a tactical way. And I think it'll be a lot better in the days ahead. When we look at the consequences of not doing it, of not voting for things like the ARPA appropriation and deciding, tough choice for policymakers to use federal American Recovery Rescue Plan money, basically, for that type of spending. But really, that's what ARPA was designed to do, was to provide long-term benefit. And this would be long-term benefit. The warranty on that pipelining is like 50 years. And the technology is so much better today than it was yesterday. We inspect our lines. I think we've inspected 1,000 manholes out of 4,200 manholes in the city. So they're big numbers. And so, the consequences are basically not good if we do not take an aggressive, timely, thoughtful, strategic approach to repairing, replacing the infrastructure.
Right, and I think, you could go on for a day talking
Sure, I
about
could.
certain things, and I think one of the most important things that our citizens need to know is that this has been something going on for the last couple of years. It's not something from one individual situation that happened, but we appreciate everybody that's kind of come to us and talked to us about maybe the water keepers and different things of that.
Sure.
But there was a lot of things already happening. One of my important things was, when I got into this seat, was to continue advocating and fighting for what you call underground, stuff people don't see, and that's very important to continue to grow that. And it's not something that is pretty, but it's stuff that we all look at. And one thing that I think I'm most proud of up here is obviously the federal money, the state money, and the grant money that we've been working to do very much so, and since I've become mayor, with the council, to get that money without, trying to put it on the backs of the local taxpayers, ad valorem type taxes and things, because we can't tax our way out of this.
No.
We have to continue to grow what happens, but getting hiring a lobbyist 3 years ago, we're in the tens of millions of dollars we've got from that, which is going to actually help move some of those lift stations that are aging on our river off of the river. Some of our development that's going to happen in areas is going to help move those off of the river and continue to do it. I think of the Glacier Gates area, when all of that development happened. One of those, because of the development, got a lift station right off of our river walk that it would have been on years ago. So this isn't something that we can fix in one day. It's something we have been working on for a while, and it's something we're aggressively working on now. So we're going to continue to do those things, and I think it was important to kind of get it up. And also in our newsletter this month, we've actually changed a little bit the format to put some of that information out there, kind of a 2-minute read. And I think that if you're out in the audience, there's copies in the back. If you're listening at home and you want to go to it, go to the city website and the newsletter, and there's information, as well as I know every one of us up here would be glad to talk to anybody and get the true information out there, because it's that important to us. And we've talked a lot. Generationally, we're trying to do things while still managing a government business-like and not just taxing our way out of it.
Right. And I just point out as a matter of perspective, Sarasota was under a consent decree from a lawsuit, a Clean Water Act lawsuit. I think over 3 years they had discharges of over 1 billion gallons into Sarasota Bay. Over 7 years, when you hear the number, there was 1 million gallon spill of partially treated wastewater. It's important to recognize that we don't want any discharges at all. We want zero. And the objective of going to the model with deep well and technology will help us get there. But when you look at the city, it has an I&I problem, inflow and infiltration. And so typically our discharges in the past have been during the rainy season of the late summer, early fall. And so the ground would get saturated, water would penetrate the clay piping and other types of breaches that we had in manholes and private laterals and the like. And we would have too much water to be able to treat effectively, because we're rated at, I think it's 9 million gallons per day of treatment capacity. And so I&I is a prolific problem in the state of Florida because of the old aged infrastructure. And we're addressing that I&I problem very aggressively as well, with the idea of prospectively not having any discharges. But when you think about the volume of the Manatee River and the tide flows from the Manatee River with the water coming in and going out, it would probably be akin to something, and Mr. Tomasco is probably the best.
And he's going to come next week.
I'd like to hear. I'm always intrigued by Dr. Tomasco's science on this, but it's something akin to, I don't know, a large room being filled with water and a drop coming out of a dropper, 1 million gallons. There are billions of gallons of water, billions of gallons, and some of that load actually is natural, because when you get up into the lower Manatee and in more nature type areas opposed to urban developed, a lot of the pollutants in the water are from waterfowl, animals that use the wetlands and things like that. They produce a lot of nitrogen in their fecal discharge as well. And so that is responsible. In order to say, well, this discharge as relates to chemistry testing of the water is related to the discharge, that's not true in its entirety. There are a lot of other contributors to it that are natural. And so that's one of the things that we have to deal with from an environmental preservation and protection perspective. That's really important. And so we're taking that on.
Right, and I think one of the things that we had heard our previous Public Works Director, Mr. McClellan, say quite often, when we would have blockages or spills or breaks, they would go and they would find towels and they would find diapers and they would find all of that. And in the system, it really isn't made for that, and some of the pump stations would get backed up. So we want to look at our citizens and say, please make sure and put down the toilet what's supposed to go down the toilet, not extra things. And baby wipes is one of the biggest things. People think, oh, that's natural. It's not. So we've got to make sure that we as government is doing the right things, but also as the citizens. And I did see one thing that you just brought up, made me think of it, is the 9 million gallons a day. We're actually working to go to 20 million gallons a day with a system that's been under construction for a while. And we are getting about 6 million gallons a day. So right now, we still have capacity. We just have to make sure the I, when it happens, it overcapacities.
That's kind of one of the misleading facts that I've seen, unfortunately, surrounding this, is that it's because of the growth of Bradenton, the population. Well, first off, let's talk about population. About 57,000 people. It is updated annually by BEBR, the Bureau of Business Statistics at the University of Florida, who does it annually for every city. And we've grown about 400 people a year, according to the last 3 reports that I look at every year, and we have the opportunity to challenge that. We'll probably grow a little bit, but we're not experiencing growth that in far as numbers of population, that the eastern part of the county has, because they have all kinds of lands. Yeah, we can go up vertically, and we have in some cases, but it's fairly de minimis comparative to 5,000 home subdivisions and commercial development and everything that goes on in the eastern part of the county. So people that would say things like, well, you should immediately stop your building permits, that's somewhat unfounded, unsupported, irrational, and otherwise not particularly, I think, accurate.
Right, but don't give any COs until it,
Yeah.
but when you're gonna see the COs that are coming online, that is gonna be numbers of people, is affordable, workforce, attainable, senior housing, because we know what's in the air right now, and those are the ones that are really gonna be helping the citizens that need it.
The
in the area.
teachers and the
Teachers,
police
right.
officers and the public works and the private people that work in our hospitality. You're right. I mean, and there's been a clamor for that. I've heard it the last 3 years. And it's not just here, it's nationally, affordable housing, and everything. And so you can't really have, one without the other as far as the mutual exclusivity of them. And it's difficult when you say that, because then you're talking on us both sides of your mouth. Well, I want affordable housing, but I don't want any more building permits being issued.
Perfect.
I want barbecue, but I don't want pigs in my town. They don't go together.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Any questions? Or just moving on? All right, Madam Clerk?
We do not have any presentation scheduled today.
All right, at this time, we're going to call for citizen comment, and citizen comment will be accepted during the citizen comment portion of the meeting on any non-agenda items, agenda items, future agenda items, or topic of relevance to the city. Comments will be accepted on the public hearings at the appropriate time, and you'll have 3 minutes, and please state your name and your city of residence. I have one card. Bill Sanders, please come forward and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bill Sanders, 2502 Riverside Drive. I'm here this morning because this kind of stuff keeps me awake at night. Everything I'm going to tell you today is public record. It's been given to the city, and so I don't have to prove these documents after I go sit back down with accusations that I'm making this stuff up. Manatee County Office of Professional Standards Investigation Report. The Office of Professional Standards opened a case filed January 11th, 2022. They received an allegation that a well-known individual in the community had a serious violation of the law. It was further alleged that 2 other individuals were aware of this unlawful act and did not report to the authorities. Persons interviewed was Detective Mike Page. No disrespect to him, he was just the person assigned, and 2 other redacted names. Report findings. On January 3rd, 2022, investigators spoke with the high-level public administration. They reported receiving a call from Mayor Brown of Bradenton. Mayor Brown told the high-ranking official he had received an anonymous call with a complaint about a community activist. The anonymous caller made serious allegations of unlawful acts in the community. The anonymous caller implicated two other well-known people of unlawful acts that were covering it up over their conversation. The high-ranking official advised Mayor Brown to contact the Bradenton Police Department, as this was a criminal matter that should be handled by the BPD. The official stated at this point it was a police matter. On January 6th, 2022, the investigator spoke to the Bradenton police officer, Detective Mike Page. Mike Page said the BPO's chief of police had received a call from Mayor Brown about these allegations. Detective Page was aware of who placed the call to the mayor. However, they were keeping this individual confidential. He advised the investigator that he would report back to the investigator after speaking to the anonymous confidential caller. January 19th, 2022, investigator spoke to Detective Page, and after interviewing the anonymous caller, Detective Page advised that Bradenton police were not going to investigate this matter further. On January 21, 2022, investigators met with two other individuals to verify their knowledge of the criminal act. Neither of the two were aware. Conclusion, investigator concluded since this was an anonymous protected person not revealed to him, the case was closed. I ask you, Brown, this kind of stuff is very dangerous. The person in that report or people in that report could have been very well me or any other citizen.
Thank you, Mr.
I'd like to
Sanders.
have you
I
address
no-
this.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. I have no other.
Will you address
citizen
this?
Comments. No other citizen comment? Moving on, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Sorry. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I would like to note that item G, Resolution 2426, a sentence was added saying this resolution was originally adopted on September 13th, 2023, and is being readopted to correct a Scribner's error. That's the only change to anything on the consent.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
And Mayor, I have had the opportunity to speak with all council on the consent agenda and all items, and I think I have adequately addressed some of the concerns and questions that have come up. Appreciate everybody's involvement in taking time out of their schedule the last couple of days and prior to that even.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
move to approve consent agenda 6A through 6G.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kramer. All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Coachman, a second by Councilman Kramer to approve consent agenda A through G. Hearing no further discussion, we'll start the vote in Ward 5.
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Carries unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
At this time, I'll administer the oath. Anyone wishing to address City Council during the following public hearing will please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate? Thank you. Resolution 2420, this is a public hearing. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bradenton, Florida, granting special use permit number SU.24.0223 to permit an indoor amusement center and lounge at 412 12th Street West, Bradenton, Florida. The parcel ID number is 3319-300-004 in the T5 Transect zoning district, and more particularly described herein. Making findings of fact and conclusions of law, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Welcome.
I am Greg DeLong, the Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development, or maybe this week it'd be Greg O. DeLong.
O. DeLong.
O. DeLong. So there you go. Thank you again, and good morning to everyone. This is Resolution 24-20, case VA 24-0223. Again, it is a special use request to permit a lounge and indoor amusement center, which is a pinball and retro video game facility at 412 12th Avenue or 12th Street West. Here is just some general information about the property. It is currently Zone T5. It is in the Urban Core Future Land Use classification. It is currently a vacant commercial space. Here is a site plan showing the location of it. City Hall is just off on the top of the screen, off 3rd there. And here is a zoning map showing the T5 zoning classification. And here's the future land use, which is the urban core, which is the highest density future land use classification we have in our future, or in our comprehensive plan. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting to open an indoor amusement center. The business is planning on having pinball machines and our retro video games in a family-friendly arcade atmosphere. Prepared food along with beer and wine will be available for the customers. The applicant did include a lounge request in case their alcoholic sales exceed the 51% of the gross food revenue. The alcoholic beverage application can be approved administratively, since this alcohol will not be served on public property or on such as the sidewalks. Distance requirements for churches and schools is met. The state statute is no closer than 500 feet for schools. Our land use regulations are a little bit outdated. They state 300 feet from schools and churches, but the closest church is 700 feet away. Here is the form-based code use tables. I did circle in red. As you can see, the indoor amusement center on the left is a special use, and also the lounge request is a special use in the T5 zoning classification. Here is a floor plan of the building. It is a unique shaped building. From the street, it looks like one long building, but I tried to show on here, 12th Street is over here. As you see, you walk in the door, it's pretty much straight back. And this is the layout of the building. And then the alley, of course, is on the rear, which is to the west. Here is a street frontage. So basically the door that has the paper over it would be the entrance to this facility, and this window here is for where the proposed use would be located. The rest is a totally different tenant space. And here is just a zoomed up photo of that. Here is the back where the alleyway is. There are special standards that need to be met when considering a special use request, and they are under 3.3.1 of the land use regulations. They are listed here. A staff report submitted as part of the application packet in your packet answers these questions for you. And here are some additional criteria under 3.3.2 of the land use regulations that need to be met. A lot of it just talks about compatibility with neighboring properties. Screening, in this instance, screening is a little difficult in the built environment of our urban downtown, so that requirement is a little dicey in meeting for any use that goes into our downtown area. Here is under 3.3.2.5, list another extensive list of questions. The applicant did address these in their application. Staff did a response to each one of these. Again, it talks about the use, talks about refuse, utility, screening, signage, everything else that needs to be met for these types of uses. And then the staff recommendation, we did recommend approval as submitted to resolution 24-20 or special use case 24.0223 as submitted. The reasoning is because we felt this was an entertainment area downtown anchored by a hotel on one end, trying to draw families to our downtown area with this type of use. We do understand there is alcohol involved. I have had conversations with the applicant yesterday to be open to maybe some stipulations if you guys want to impose some of them. One stipulation we did have a conversation about is maybe on the weekends or even during the week, putting a 9 o'clock limit on the youth being in the facility, and then after 9 p.m., then it can be adults only, just to kind of put some stipulation on it. So that is a conversation you can have with the applicant. Planning Commission did meet on February 21st. They did recommend approval without stipulations, and their vote was 6-0. So do you have any questions? If you have any questions about the business plan, hours of operation, the applicant is here, John Paul. He can address those questions for you. But if you have any other questions about anything related to our zoning rules,
Any
happy to
questions?
help answer
I
them.
have some
Yes, ma'am?
questions. Yeah, a couple questions. First off, this is the same owner as the Kangaroo,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and so their liquor license, I mean, will they be,
I'm gonna actually
Connected.
ask John Paul to answer those questions. I
Okay.
understand they have their own liquor license, but I'll let him confirm that for you.
and what assurances do we have that this will not end up being a gaming arcade?
Gaming arcades are illegal in the city. I understand your assurance.
I feel like,
So if it switches over, we would have to work with our police department to get it shut down.
Well, I just don't feel like this is going in the direction that our downtown, that we're investing a lot of money
Okay.
to go. This concerns me.
Mr. Kramer?
Can you pull up the page as a future land use map?
Sure.
Back. One more. That looks like it's both parcels as opposed to the one furthest to the south.
Mhm.
Do they own both
I think they do.
or just the one to the south?
I believe they own both, but I'd have to confirm that, looking at the auditor's website. I did not verify that.
Okay. My concern would be expansion into,
Mhm.
from the Lost Kangaroo into the other one and then into this one, and it all becoming one giant conglomeration.
Any other questions?
And if there is an expansion of a special use, it would have to come back through.
Mayor,
Mrs. Moore, and then.
I have concerns as well. It seems, I'm a little dubious about this being a destination for families. I mean, maybe if someone was staying at the hotel and they walked by it, it might be something that would potentially, but I don't see families thinking to themselves, let me go downtown to go to the retro arcade. So I'm wondering if we can, I mean, in the very least, stipulations regarding lighting, and that sort of thing, to really not make it look a little bit,
Sketchy?
well, more like an adult establishment.
Yeah, we talked to him. I mean, exterior lighting is regulated through our form-based code. Also, window tinting is regulated through our form-based code and signage, so they cannot block out the windows. So I did have a conversation with Jean-Paul about possibly making sure the interior was well lit, which would benefit them in the end too, to attract people into their business. So there may be a stipulation you could put in about some interior lighting that could make it better, more well lit.
It's also just small when you, I'm sorry to keep going, the layout of it, you would think if there were gonna be children, you would have things like a table for the food, for people to sit and eat. I'm just concerned that, I mean, as a parent of some small, some bigger, I just don't know how this actually is gonna play out to work for families.
Perry?
thank you, Mayor. And in line with some of the comments, I think the council has the authority to set special conditions because it's a special use permit. And when you look at those, as Councilwoman Gonzalez Morris pointed out, there are certain conditions that would probably be able to provide a more family-friendly environment and less of a delirious, and the potential for delirious activities in there. Hours of operation is probably the first one. We all know that downtown kind of changes a little bit at a certain point in the night. And we don't want this changing to be the 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. hangout for younger kids, other types of things. Some of that's regulated by alcohol statutes and the Alcohol Control Division's regulations. I don't know if there's been a photonic study on the lighting inside there. That might be something that we want to know about. Lighting has a lot to do with place safety. The window visibility has a large window there, but there can be conditions related to that, and other types of conditions as well. I'd recommend that perhaps we go back to Mr. Paul through the department and try to set some conditions that would provide some better clarity and certainty and surety regarding the commercial activities, the community safety concerns, and the like that are related to this project. Under the provisions of 3.3.2.5, they're fairly broad, and you could fashion some special conditions that fit within those requirements that I think would maybe perhaps make you much more comfortable than the overall general recommendation. I think that the department looked at the zoning, the surrounding activity, the designation of an entertainment area, and it fits within those particular components of evaluation. But I think there's also other factors in here that can be considered.
What are the set hours now, or or is there a set hours?
Jean Paul has, I'll let him meet, I'll bring him up
Right,
if
so
that's
bring
okay.
the applicant up and
Yep.
please state your name and address for the record, and then you can answer some of them.
I'm John Paul Taylor, 8412 Palm Lakes Court, Sarasota. I'm a big component of pinball machines. Boys Club, video games, and since a kid in Bradenton, actually here, and then when I grew up in California. But I've been in the pinball business for about 10 years, and I have them all over the Tampa Bay area. A lot of them are at breweries. Three Daughters in St. Pete would be my biggest example, and there's a lot of kids there. And usually it's Saturday. It's usually Sunday. Fathers come in and show their kids how to, learn how to play pinball. Not anything to do with gambling. I get the gambling issue. It sort of irritates me too, because I'm a video game nerd, and when I see an arcade, I'm excited to find out that it's not really an arcade. So this project has kind of gotten a little bigger. It was just going to be pinball sales, selling games for people to have at home. It's more of a floor plan or a showroom of pinball, but then we added food and drinks. We're kind of gunning more for a cafe, not really a bar. We got a cappuccino. We're going to be doing a lot of non-alcoholic drinks, kombucha, energy drinks, and matcha. That's what I drink in the morning, is matcha. We're going to do a little bit of food, some loaded hot dogs. So we definitely going to have the windows open. We want some traffic to grab some food and leave. Get a hot dog, maybe get a cappuccino and leave. So we're kind of going more for the cafe, not for the bar scene. So our hours are going to be a little earlier. They're really undetermined right now, depending on staff. Whatever I can hire, if we got some people who want to come in the morning. We're not really going to do any late night stuff, but my hope is that Saturday morning for the market, I hope the vendors drop their kids off. They can play pinball. Sunday we might have birthday parties. During the week, there probably won't be any kids at all, because they just don't do that anymore. When I was a kid, I'd leave school and ride my bike to play pinball, but they don't do that anymore. But families will come in on Saturday and Sunday and such. So as far as beer goes, really it's just going to be a small refrigerator. We're not even doing draft beer or anything like that. It's just a small refrigerator. The bigger refrigerators, the non-alcoholic drinks that we're offering. So hopefully people come in, have a little bit of food, have a little drink, play some pinballs. And our future model is going to be a little bit more set for sales of pinball machines. And there's no money. All the games aren't set on free play, so it's not like there's any chance to, you walk in, you just hit play, and you can play the game. Our goal is really mainly to sell the pinball machines, but that's really phase 2. So in the beginning, we just kind of want to attract people, get a little bit of food, a little drink, and a little bit of entertainment. And so,
Questions from that?
I know it's a little confusing. Because I'm trying to do a lot of different things.
Well, I think one of the things, obviously, somebody tried to put an arcade in.
I was out of the country when that happened. I heard about it, but yeah. Unfortunately, that does look bad. Yeah.
And then also, I think the biggest concern is what I hear is if you're closing by 9 or 10 o'clock, because we know downtown changes.
Yeah,
And that's not the image that we want, is people hanging out, drinking, getting drunk, and fighting.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
Trust me.
we're trying to change that.
Yeah.
So I just think, I kind of like the concept, what you're telling us.
Yeah.
It's just, we've got to have what stipulation and rules, because, if it was open 24 hours,
No.
there might be a problem,
I don't want to be up that late.
So, Ms. Barnaby, Vice Mayor Barnaby?
Thank you. Good morning. It sounds like to me there's a lot of different questions going on with this, and with it being a special use, the council always tries to be very, very specific and cautious with them, because once it's done, it's done.
I see.
It sounds like to me there's a lot of questions still. So I'm going to say to you what I used to say to my boys, which was, do you want possibly a slow yes or a fast no? So we've got a public hearing scheduled. We are going to have to open the public hearing and follow our procedures with that. but it might be something for you to consider that now that you've heard the feedback from everyone here, that you get with staff and that we look at addressing this at possibly the first meeting or the next meeting, the end of March, first meeting in April kind of thing, to give you plenty of time to get all of these things that people are having questions about answered to their satisfaction. So when you come back, then it'll be hopefully good news.
Okay.
But that's something for you to think about.
Ms. Coburn?
Yeah, I would say thank you for coming and speaking with us. I have a much easier feeling after hearing that. I love pinball myself. I think the key that would help me is the hours of operation, and I think BPD could probably guide me a little bit on that as
Did
to,
he not include the hours in the presentation? I'm not sure if that
No,
was
I
even.
don't think
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
We're looking at 10 to 10, but I mean, on a Friday night, we might go longer just because it's Friday night. And people have asked for food late night downtown. I don't want to, that's not my priority though. We want to be open early, and I want to go home early. I don't want to hang out. I'm getting old. I don't want to hang out all late night.
Well,
and,
that would certainly make me feel a little
But
less
10 to
heartburn.
10, I mean, we don't even know if we want to be open on a Monday, once we have our staff, then we will know very concrete of our hours. But as far as I know, in our head, we've been always talking about 10 to 10. So, except for like Friday, we might do 10 to 11 or 10 to 12. But yeah. And again, like I said, we're not really doing a lot of beer and wine. We have a refrigerator, but we're not doing draft. We're not doing anything that we want, because I'd rather have people drinking Mountain Dew and hanging out there. There's no advantage for me to have somebody sitting there drinking beer all day. It's not like the profit's better. I mean, I can make more money on Mountain Dew, so it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, we are definitely looking around 10 to 10.
Mr. Kramer?
Thanks for being here. Question one, so I guess the way you're describing the games in there are really more of an attraction to bring people in the door and maybe
Yeah.
sell
It-
those
some-
machines down the line
Yeah. Some
than
machines,
as a
that's correct.
draw just to be there and stay there. And two, I guess, if it's all free play, how do I reserve a
They're set
game?
on free play. You just come in and hit.
I know, but if like you're on the machine and I want to play, I can't put my quarter down on the machine.
No,
because
all the games are play 4-player, and we're going to have a lot of tournaments as well. Tournaments are, we have screens, and in fact, I'm leaving tomorrow for a tournament in Texas. So, I mean, tournaments are a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, games are, when somebody's done with the game, they have there's an etiquette. You either walk away, or if someone's standing behind you, you just get out of the way. But yeah, all the games, you just go up and hit start.
Okay. I guess the last thing is I would definitely caution against the late night food, because that was what tended to be a major issue on the streets of downtown back
Okay, I wasn't.
not too long ago.
I've heard lots of people wanting to do late night, whether it worked or not. Back the day of Fisherman Joe's, he wanted to do late night and then stopped doing it because I'm not sure if he ever sold any food. So, yeah, I'm willing to try things, and but definitely
Just
not.
be cautious of what comes with
Sure,
that.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Coachman?
Thank you. Thank you for coming, and I'm glad you clarified some
Right.
things. You say you're going for a feel of coming in, having a drink, a coffee or what have you, look at the pinball machines. But if you add alcohol, it seems like that needs to be a more sit down, stay for a minute, because if they guzzle down that alcohol and just take off, that's not a good thing.
Plus with minors,
Right,
with their parents,
you
with
know,
the
and
alcohol
it's
part
just,
of it.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you want that quick and not just leisurely stay hours and hours,
Right.
seem like you take that enticement out.
I've definitely, it was recommended that I should carry beer and wine on that street. I didn't really
Beer-
have,
I
I wasn't trying to defend it. It doesn't matter to me, to be
No, well,
honest.
I think just once you add the alcohol, the spirits.
Sure.
No, and I think, not that, and the comment was made that some other child-friendly places do have wine or beer, while the kids are playing, the parents drink. So I don't think that's a big issue. We're just thinking more of, I think most of us are probably thinking more late night
Right.
on our street.
I understand.
You've got a parent that comes in
Right.
with their 10-year-old, and they're sitting there drinking till midnight, 1 o'clock,
Oh,
and
well-
they're 10-year-olds. Yeah,
I don't know if that's part of the
right,
presentation.
we want to make
either, but
sure,
Age, I mean, you know,
Yeah, after a certain
After
time.
9 o'clock, you can't, you have to, most of them are gonna be accompanied by their parents anyways. That's just how it goes nowadays. But, yeah, come 9 o'clock, I mean, we're gonna, yeah, there's no
Yeah,
one
but if I'm a
under
parent, I'll go
underage, you know.
somewhere.
We don't want anybody underage
Right.
at late night.
but I don't want to have anybody tell me I can't take my child somewhere either, if
Right.
I'm responsible adult too. So there's a lot of things that I think what Vice Mayor Barnaby said is there might be some things that are a little bit more specific on your part to say to us that, you know, because again, I think, I hear a lot of good things about this possibly because, and it would be fun.
Yeah, it's a
you
little
know, to give
different.
a little bit different, and it would
That's what I'm
give
trying to put
some
together, something
tourist
different
stuff.
for
So
downtown,
this
right.
is not a
I
negative.
don't want another bar, that's for
No,
sure.
no,
You know?
we don't want that either
Yeah.
from the standpoint of just a bar only, so. ca- Yeah, right,
Sounds like a micro Dave and Buster's or something.
right.
Yeah, right.
Something like that.
Exactly.
All right,
Well,
Councilwoman Moore?
That, I was gonna say that I also feel better after hearing your presentation. And I think it is possible, and I guess what I'm hoping to see after you regroup with staff, and I would love to talk more with staff about what I'm kind of envisioning, but it is, I think it's possible for you to alleviate concerns about the youth in the earlier hours. Similar to a venue like Oscura, for example, that has the coffee and the sandwiches, but then also is a venue for more adult-type activity in the evening. And I think that's what at least I'm looking for, is some
That's-
kind of
Yeah.
definitive, like, this is gonna be the vibe in the day, and then this is what it's gonna turn into.
Right,
If
right.
that is the goal. But something that, I don't, you know, basically, I just don't want it to be dark and, you
No,
know,
no.
seedy
It's gonna be
from start to, from
well
10 to
lit,
10.
because the first part of it is the counter for the food, and that's, you know, people want to grab some food and leave, it's very well lit, it's lit, nice. Or hopefully it will be.
All right, well, I think we have to go to the public hearing. So if there's no other questions, we'll go to the public hearing, and then we'll kind of come back and regroup on
Sure.
process, so,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you for your time.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Call Mr. DeLong back up and see comments on staff's part, or maybe also some legal.
Yeah, I'll be looking over to Marissa for this one. So some notes I wrote down are hours of operation or a question that you'd like to have addressed, possible some lighting. I wrote down another one, blocking the windows so it's clear and transparent throughout. And maybe have a discussion about the alcohol in general and see if.
So
that's
is
they
it
would
something
consider.
that,
And late night food.
yeah, is something that can come back to,
Those are stipulations we could oppose on the approval at
is
a later
that something
date.
that we could put on there right now? Or is it something that we could ask to go back to staff and then come back and have the applicant kind of address some of
I
that?
think it would probably be best to have it go back to staff and let the applicant have further discussions. And I think also, as Councilwoman Moore pointed out, maybe if there are other questions that you may have that you want to pass on to staff to make sure those are addressed. And then that way, when they come back, they can have kind of the stipulations already drafted. And hopefully that would be something that all concerns would be addressed at that point in time.
Right, and this would be no more cost or anything to the applicant?
No,
It
this would just be us drafting up.
And
a
then
new-
coming back to our next meeting,
If you set that for the date.
right, we can set the date, and, so, all right, Ms.
Could
Moore?
we just continue? Well, you've closed the public hearing, I'm sorry.
You can reopen the public hearing, and then you could just continue it. It just has to be to a fixed date, time, and place. I think that probably would be the simplest way to do it.
Way to reopen it?
Yes, so just reopen public comment, and then it would be a motion. The mayor would need a motion to continue, and like I said, to a fixed date, time, and place. So I don't know what meeting you want to consider, but
And Mayor, if I could just be heard on that, I think it'd be good to get the applicant up here to agree to continue it for further discussion, because if it's consensual, there's a waiver of time restraints and actions and things like that.
Okay, so let's hear that.
I have, is it?
All right, just a second, let's get him here.
I wasn't, are we
So
still?
what we'd say is we would reopen the public hearing,
Mhm.
and then get a motion to continue to a date certain. And is 2 weeks enough for you to work with staff to say, here's the stipulations that you've heard today?
Yeah.
And then council can get
Most of
more.
everything I've heard, we've already talked about.
But I
mean,
think-
hours were definitely quite, and like I said, with not hiring any staff yet, hopefully we, like I said, we've been talking about 10 to 10 for a long time, and the windows was an issue, I think we discussed, so I'm not
If you
really-
set a parameter and it's less, we're not gonna have a problem with that. If it's more, then we would have a problem, so.
Yeah, they're just looking for solid answers.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Instead of us putting stipulations right now.
I mean, I could put on
making
the
you
window
take
10 to 10.
Right, yeah. So do it, so, yes, I think that, but you have to agree to say, yes, let's continue
yes,
it.
yes,
And
yes,
I mean, is enough time the next meeting, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah.
Can we potentially, I know that we got a lot of issues going on. Can we bounce it to the one after that, maybe the middle of April? It'd give us 30 days. I don't know what the planning is for opening, but when I go by there, there's still a lot of construction to do, it looks like. Looks great too inside with the steel and.
No, this is the other
Oh,
building.
I'm next to there.
He's next to that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is the pink
Oh, yeah,
building next to
right,
it,
right,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the small guy.
So is 30 day, is April, what's the date of that meeting? April
Oh,
12th?
April 10th
April 10th,
is
so
the first meeting.
is April 10th
Would that be?
amenable to you? Okay. All right, Ms. Moore, did you have a final question?
I did. I don't know if it's for staff or for council, but is the request for lounge in case sales exceed that so that so he's not getting in trouble, basically? It's not, okay.
Okay, so I think we have some sort of agreement, so just reopen the public hearing,
Correct.
and then during that, we would have a,
You just reopen the public hearing, and then it would be a motion by council to continue.
okay, so we'll reopen the public hearing, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing until our first meeting in April, which I believe the date is April the 10th. We have the applicant agreeing to that, and I think that that will give all of us comfort when we go to cast our vote on this issue, that we will have all of these issues worked out ahead of time and feel more comfortable. But I'm sorry, my motion is that we continue the public hearing till April the 10th.
With the time and the place.
Well,
8:30.
okay, well, it's not a time, you're not.
Understood, yeah,
Time
understood,
certain.
but yeah, the meeting starts at 8:30.
Okay, so the meeting, April 10th at 8:30 in the morning here at Bradenton City Hall, 101 Old Main Street, Bradenton, Florida.
second.
34205.
And we have a second, so by Ms. Coker. All right. Hearing no further questions, we'll start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Thank you. Already gone. So, all right, Madam Clerk?
There is not any new business scheduled on the agenda today?
Okay, yep, just come up, Mr. Perry. So we're under new business, unfinished business,
It's a
new
little bit of
business.
both, and
Okay.
if we could get Elmo here cooking with oil.
It's usually gas. Cooking with gas.
Mayor, Council, you may remember basically that that we had a budget adjustment request for infrastructure repair for some incidents and experiences we've been having with Public Works with our sanitary sewer and some of the water distribution as well. And so we approved that budget adjustment, which was 2407. I think it was at the last meeting, as I best remember. And it was fairly significant in the amount, looking at the total here. What the total was?
The budget adjustment was this, but the total 1.5.
Yeah, about 1.5 million. It dealt with the sledge hauling, you may remember, a whole host of other things. This letter basically is a declaration of emergency procurement, and what that is that we have to obtain services for of a variety of different repairs that have to be made. Some of them are very specialized type services, like methanol automated feed system. And we don't have the time to put that out for an RFP on the street. Because we need to get someone in there right away to figure out the biology of what's going on with the blankets of sludge that are clogging filters at the water treatment facility. Local control panel, that's switch gear, basically. I don't want to go too deep in this hole, but some of the way you deal with those blankets of sludge is you introduce microorganisms. And the microorganisms, if introduced at the right time, when the flow is going at a certain speed and volume, is most effective. If you do it at the wrong time, the effectiveness can be minimal, 10% effective. That's all electronically monitored, basically. So when you see things like filter system local control panel upgrades, that has to do with our ability to regulate the time and manner of that type of microbiological chemical process.
Say that 3 times fast.
I went to law school because I'm not very good at science, or math for that matter. But as explained to me, that's kind of the short version of what's going on with some of the problems over there. There's also other systems with weir gates, which are kind of moving water from one area to another for different types of treatment. But these are very specialized services, obviously, and frankly, there's a very limited number of people that work in these areas locally. There's supply chain issues with a lot of it. It is electronics, it's mechanical, a whole host of other situations, and so we need some flexibility in the procurement process to get those types of services done. We've had experience on more transmission collection problems, and so those are going to be typically heavy civil contractors. Woodruff, they do work with us and stuff, and some of it they do work with us, but it's not this specific work. It might be on the continuing services part within the scope. It might be like roadway work. We know they're a good contractor. We know they do this stuff too. The 59th Street water distribution, sanitary sewer break for Sunchase, which was the Friday when we did regatta. I was out there in the afternoon personally. It is a huge, and if you go down 59th Street, you see the temporary bypass. It's there. Anybody that's gone by lately has probably looked at it. We had to take out a concrete block wall in Sunchase and get into a connection box that's probably from me to that wall and me to that wall. It's a big connection box, concrete. Yeah, that's the kind of work we got to do. And so this is basically, under the municipal procurement, I have to basically declare procurement. The city administrator has authority to do that, and he has to take it to the city council. And that's what this letter, in essence, does. So I'd seek a motion basically approving the emergency procurement as outlined in this particular letter. And I will provide a copy of the letter to you thereafter.
And this is a budget adjustment.
We've already done the budget adjustment. You've already approved the money for these repairs.
This is just the next step.
This is the procurement, to actually do the work.
I'm comfortable making a motion, I just don't know what to say.
How would the motion?
I think the motion would be to approve those items as an emergency procurement that are outlined in Mr. Perry's March 13, 2024 letter that deal with water reclamation facility capital improvements, oxidation ditch grit removal and sounding, emergency sanitary sewer improvements and repairs, and lift station operational improvements.
So moved.
Probably
Ms.
best.
Coker,
Got
seconded
that,
by
Tamara?
Ms. Coachman. All right, we've had a lot of, I could use a couple of terms, but talk about this. Any further discussion?
Yeah, anytime I see the streets leading towards my street on this list, I always am concerned, but I'm also concerned about future projects that are scheduled, maybe, I don't know, next Wednesday's or next week's planning commission meeting for my neighborhood too.
All right, Hearing no further discussion, we'll start the vote.
Excuse me,
in
Mr.
Ward-
Mayor, I'm sorry. Who seconded the motion?
Ms. Coachman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, we'll start the vote in Ward 2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
and 1.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Perry. Anything else?
Just briefly, Mayor, I sent out a memo regarding, last Friday, the United States government passed a continuing budget resolution that went beyond just the operating budget. You know, we're all familiar that this whole continuing resolution thing has been going on for a long time. But this actually included a great deal of capital funding, about $462 billion. And we, through our congressional representative, Congressman Buchanan, had put in for a sizable amount of improvements for City Park, which we did get for $1 million, for the Peace Hawk, which was $1.8 million, for police technology, which was $750,000. And it just happened to be the same day that the state of Florida legislative session was wrapping up, where we ended up getting over, I think it was about $8 million from the state. As well, and of course that is subject to approval by the governor through the adoption of the budget or veto. Or, also, you could pocket veto, but that's beside the point. This letter basically is a thank you to our congressional from you, as our elected officials, and myself as the chief administrative officer, two of those elected officials for lobbying these efforts through their legislative bodies. It's an art form. It's what you do at a certain level, and they do it, of course, at different levels. And it's a big plus. You know, when you look at those kinds of numbers of $15 million for capital infrastructure projects on a $180 million overall budget, it's sizable, and I think it's almost historic. I don't know if the city's ever gotten that much third-party funding. And a lot of people's efforts went into that with phone calls and relationships and professionalism, and I think also they like what they see happening in Bradenton and the level and quality of our elected leadership. So I just thought it would be good for you all to sign this letter of appreciation to them, and I will be circulating that.
No, I think it's great. I would like, though, one letter to Council or Representative Buchanan, because that's a separate than the state issues.
Right.
So I think it would be better to do two letters thanking, you know, obviously Representative Buchanan and then our local, because we're going to go right back to the federal, because there's another round coming.
It certainly is.
Right now. And a lot of this is resiliency, a lot of it's that. So I don't know. I mean, how does the council feel?
I like the idea.
It's a wonderful idea, but however, there's a logistics issue, and I need this letter signed like promptly.
Yeah.
So could I do, I don't know who's gonna be here and who's not gonna be here in the days
So
ahead.
but can just get Shelley to do it right now and,
Sure.
yeah, just get two separate letters and we'll sign
Well, if
it.
we're making changes, can I just ask a question? Should we be including the governor on that? In anticipation?
I'm going to do a separate letter for you
Okay.
all for that. I thought
Okay.
about that already. And I need to
Right
get a
now,
little
the-
direction from our government affairs person on his
Gotcha.
staff too, on who would be the appropriate individuals to impress upon them the importance of, and criticality of some of that.
Because the letter to Representative Buchanan is thank you, because we got that money.
Right,
Yeah.
The letter to our local delegation is thank you for pushing it.
yeah, and getting it into the budget.
And then after whatever the deadline is on those, it would be thank you for, you know, if it doesn't get vetoed,
Yeah.
you know, and then, so I think, you know, we want to thank him, but we also want to thank Representative Buchanan immensely because we got that money now. And,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody's jetting out of here the second the man hits the gavel. So if you can get it, the man.
It is women's month.
I was gonna say, the man.
Thank you, though, Nug. Great job on that, and we appreciate it. So, all right, anything else, Madam Clerk, before we move on to council reports?
No, sir.
All right, we're going to start in Ward 5. I think we did last time, too, but I might have missed one, so, but you'll be done early. So. I know you like the pressure.
I'll start if you want.
Okay, well, she wants to start.
Go for it.
Ward
Well,
1.
I'm prepared, believe it or not.
don't have much to
Hey.
say.
It's a women's choice.
Okay. I just wanted to make a shout out. The Brain and Kiwanis this past weekend did the Key Leader program, which was a weekend with high school students. And they did a lot of leadership activities and team building. It was out at Dream Oaks over the weekend. There were about 40 high school kids that were there. We know this past weekend we faced a big tragedy for some high school students here in our community, and in fact, 2 of the kids that were there had to leave for that because of what had happened. And I just want to kind of point out that there are some bright lights out there. Who knows? Maybe this weekend those kids weren't where would have been in possible harm's way. So I want to highlight and thank Kiwanis for doing this program, and I also want to say let's get behind these points of light. These were 40 great kids that were out there, and there was a lot of great discussion that came about because of the incident. So I want to do a shout out to Braden and Kiwanis and hope that they will continue to do this program year after year. It just is having a great impact, at least on those 40. And it's like ripples in a pond, that you never know where it'll make a ripple to. So I also want to, don't know if I'm going to be present for the St. Patty's Day celebration on Saturday night, Main Street Alive. I hope people will be there. I've got grandkids in town and don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And normally I would be giving the Irish blessing, so I would like to do that now. So I'd like to wish everyone in the city of Bradenton, may you have a world of wishes at your command, God and his angels close at hand, friends and family, their love impart, and an Irish blessing in your heart. Sláinte.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Vice Mayor Barnaby?
Oh, that was lovely. Well, I've just got a couple of things. One is I was speaking with some of our law enforcement officers yesterday, and they are making a plea that if you are not locking your door and taking stuff out of your car, and if you are leaving your garage door open all day and all night, you're making their jobs a lot harder. So here's a plea that if your car is in your driveway, it's locked. If your garage door is open, you shut it. Don't leave it open 24/7. Things have a way of developing feet and legs and walking off, and it's just, that type of crime is the easiest to prevent. So please cooperate and just, I know a lot of people that grew up here, and when we grew up here, did we lock our doors every night? When I was a little girl, I doubt that they did. But it's a different time now. And I think it's something that we all can do and kind of take a little bit of responsibility on ourselves. So I also want to remember the family of Dan Bauer, whose funeral is today. The Bauers are a very important family in this community, and particularly with our fire services being the owners of 10-8. And we just want to remember them. And
that's why our fire chief and that's not here, they're at the funerals.
Correct. Also want to thank everybody for the wonderful time we had at Lewis Park, that everyone that came. I think the mayor put the 2 young ladies from St. Stephen's a little, they were like, you want us to lead the pledge? How does the pledge start? So
They were not expecting that.
they were not expected that, but the Garden Club did a lovely job for us, letting us come in after the official grand opening. All the staff, all the work that people put in to make it a wonderful time. And I'm going to tell a tale on the mayor and the first lady of the city, who were over there the Sunday before, sprucing up and cleaning up and making sure that it looked just perfect. Can't believe that this is the kind of leadership we have. So I want to thank them for that too. And with St. Patty's Day coming,
Oh, dear.
and with it being Women's History Month, if you'll indulge me, I want to tell you my favorite Irish joke. Patty goes down to the pub and he says to the barkeep, "Give me a Guinness." And the barkeep says, "Patty, you got a long face. What forever's the problem?" So, "Oh, me wife and me had a fight." And the barkeep said, "Ah, Patty, you married a stiff-necked woman, you did." And Patty goes, "Yes, but this time she came crawling up to me on her hands and knees, she did." Barkeep says, "Ah, now you're telling something, Patty, that woman of yours, she would not do that." "Ah, on me mother's grave, she came crawling up to me on her hands and knees, she did." And the barkeep said, "And what forever did she say?" And Patty said, "She said, 'Come out from under that bed and fight like a man.'" Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Thank you.
I went with my clean one.
Councilman Kramer, you're up.
It never fails. Please, Mr. Mayor, have Councilwoman Barbie go last every time. Please. I beg of you. Another Kiwanis event that happened this past weekend was the Manatee River Family Festival, which was in conjunction with the new Manatee River Kiwanis Club that was sponsored by Bradenton Kiwanis, the largest Kiwanis in Florida. But it was really geared towards MCR Health had multiple of their almost like trailers that help with mammograms and with sight and hearing checks. So it was really good to have that. There were some other vendors there, community vendors, and we were able to give away some bikes, which was nice too.
And helmets.
And helmets. Yeah, Bradenton Police Department, thank you for being there to fit some of the winners with helmets. To my friends in Bradenton Tropical Palms, I got an email last night. They're asking for help. Interesting there, I don't know if people know, but we have Wares Creek that comes into the city from the river. But once it gets down past 17th Avenue, it becomes county managed, which runs right through Wares Creek. Apparently they have an alligator that is coming up on shore because people are feeding the alligators. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I need to look into. Do not feed the alligators, okay? Please, especially snowbirds, because when they come around for food later, you're not going to be here to feed it. And it's going to keep looking for food. But please do not feed the alligators. I had something else. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for actually allowing Ms. Barnaby to speak at Lewis Park. I know that was on the agenda, but nearly got missed. Yeah, so I always have to have my cheaters here to be able to read this great monitor we have in front of us. But yes, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Moore?
I've got just a couple of little notes. Tomorrow is my Minnesota League of Cities meeting, so I just thought I would start to warn you guys ahead of time if I could, if we're having a meeting, in case there's something that you want me to pass along or be on the lookout for more information. And then I thought it was noteworthy at the EDC breakfast last week that in conjunction with our conversation about growth and planning for it and infrastructure, that they noted that our growth also includes births, which I feel like people are, including myself, always under the conception that that it's because of people relocating, but it actually also is a combination of relocating residents and Ms. Barnaby is looking at me.
I don't think you realize the pun you made.
Oh, boy.
You were talking about conception.
Oh, right.
That's all. You know how I love puns.
Puns are fun. But anywho, so I just thought that was noteworthy because that is all a part of our planning and whatnot. And it was just a tidbit of information that I had not thought of and didn't know. Yesterday, I got to enjoy an hour riding along with the Meals on Wheels volunteer for Government Week, and I thought that was eye-opening. I appreciated her time and how she very efficiently, but also very compassionately, makes relationships with the people that she drops food to. So that was fun. I'm looking forward to meeting more with the Colonel. My questions, just FYI, will involve his strategy for obtaining funding for projects, as well as how he manages and prioritizes projects. And not totally last but not least, I also wanted to thank you all for indulging me with what was a very long workshop and a very meaty one. It is my suggestion that we consider having them more frequently so that we don't run into the lunch hour and then get hungry and whatnot, because I found it really helpful and useful. So I just thought I would pass that along. And then finally, thank you for the, I am pleased to see the Women's History Month proclamation, and I just feel like I should give a shout out to the men that support the women that not only sit up here, but also do all the remarkable things that women can do.
Here.
That's it.
Well,
You ready now?
there are advantages to being last in this room. So many of the things I might have said have been said. Definitely spring is in the air, and St. Patty's Day is near upon us, and I just say everyone be safe. Remember, there's also a March 18th that you need to be up and ready to go about, because that'll be a Monday, right? So Monday morning, go to work. Don't, So, and basically, I want to just say, I've missed, unfortunately, some of the things. I really wanted to be at the grand opening of Lewis Park, but there was a special needs student at my school that kind of needed, he needed us, and so I was there. But I am just excited about having a park that is so inclusive, just simply because of what I do day to day. So happy St. Patrick's Day, and everyone be safe.
Thank you. Just a couple things that, obviously a lot of stuff has been said. One of the things with Lewis Park, and, my wife and I did a very small thing where our staff had gone out there and done such a great job setting up to it. And then also the Rotary Club had gone out on Saturday and done so many great things. And then the staff went out the morning of and really got it clean. So it's something that we up here have really, again, we'll say it, have put tasks to our staff, because our image is how we look. And they're doing a great job, and they know it, and that starts at the top with Mr. Perry, going down to Mr. COO of everything, Mr. Williams, and then obviously great supervisors that we have, and then great people working with them. So we just want to thank them. It's all about what they've got us done, and they make us look good. So we appreciate that. Being spring in the air, and obviously baseball's in the air, and we've got a few more games coming up, but had a record crowd on Sunday when the Pirates played the Phillies, and that was great to see from the standpoint of record crowd over the last 5-7 years, over 8,000 people in attendance. And the reason I say that is because I'm glad that game was on a Sunday because of traffic, and I'll have, when the chief comes up, she'll give a little update on some things. And one of the things that I think that we really want to start working is we're all getting those traffic calls or concerns. And as we know, you live in certain towns, bigger towns, you have traffic concerns for 12 hours a day. We have traffic concerns from 7-ish to 9-ish, 9:30 sometimes, and we have traffic from 4 to 6 with a rush hour time. Now, during the day, we still have traffic times, but a lot of times if there's an accident on the interstate, if there's an accident somewhere else, if it's spring break, there's time. But believe me, I drive in the traffic every day, and I go at all different times. The other day, I went 5 times from here to 43rd Street and back during the day. And I was shocked between 10 and 3. I was like, well, wait, where's the traffic? And, so it's relevant, and we're working it. We're going to do some things. And some of the comments I'm going to put on, our Bradenton Police Department posts a lot of great timing and the traffic and the left turn lane, the second people that don't wait in line to turn left. And, some of the Facebook posts are very inappropriate and what's said. The chief mentioned it a little bit earlier. But some of the people are posting things that, for our law enforcement that's going out there and standing in that and doing it, is just inappropriate. So, other governments have actually shut down comments. I'm not advocating for that. But if people keep posting negative, very inappropriate stuff, you have to think about that. I mean, because we're doing it as a public service to get the information out there on Facebook, but you cannot be posting curse words and inappropriate things about individuals because of their sexuality, especially because of being Women's Month. So, I'm just going to say it. Stop posting negative. If you have a comment, we want to read your comments, but do not post inappropriate stuff because, just because you don't feel that way. Because we are trying, we are out there, and I'll let the chief go through her part of it with the baseball ideas that we're coming up with. So, thank you, Mr. Perry, for obviously going through some of the water treatment stuff that we're going through, because that is something, and we were, if not the first, one of the first to work with the aquifer situation years ago. So we worked with Swift Mud and went through that, and that was many years ago. So things are being tried and trying to work it. And just because we have 2032 by federal standards that we have to be out of the river, I want to be out sooner. A drop is too much, but don't articulate on the negative. Let's articulate on the positive and figure that out. Okay, and again, I had the state and federal funding on it. That's one thing that I think has been very important to us to continue to look at that. I've asked Mr. Perry, just so we can, because we can't talk about it, in the sunshine different ways, but I've asked Mr. Perry possibly to look at any lobbyists with the federal funding to see if there might be an opportunity to work within a lobbyist, because we know $225,000 that we've spent over 3 years, $75,000 a year, has returned close to $20 million if everything comes back. So it's a great return. I'm not advocating definitely for spending that much again, but there might be an opportunity because, we lobbied Vern Buchanan ourselves, but maybe there's more money that we can lobby in other ways that can make up for it. So there's an opportunity with information coming in the future there. And then probably last, I know Ms. Barnaby talked about Mr. Bauer, but also kind of a lot of times when spouses die, when the husband was maybe a little bit more popular in the town, and you look back and the spouse was there, because without that spouse, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Obviously, without me, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my wife. So, but Helen Eason passed away this week, and her husband was Dewey Eason, which was, if you're in this community for a long time, was the big signs now, and kind of started all the in the old days you had to draw signs, right, Ms. Barnaby?
Oh, jeez.
The technology changed with Signs Now, which was a big company, a local company. And the reason I say that, I had to get something. You gave me a couple today, but I was just...
Don't forget, we're the same age. She and I.
No, but yes, again, the reason I say that is because, up here, we can have our times when we don't agree or we work through things, but we also to work together for what the common good of our community is, and the long-term small town that we still are. You really look at it, and when you look at the long-term small town that we are, the bigger we get, sometimes you start to lose that sense of community. But I don't feel that in our circles of city of Bradenton, northwest, northeast, down the corridor, that we're losing that. And it's going to be important that we continue to see that we can continue to grow while challenging all of us to do things. And yesterday I was able to celebrate a 50-year business with a proclamation at their business, Boyd Insurance, or Wilbur Boyd. If you're from this community, you know what Wilbur Boyd did and the legacy that he's done. A couple weeks ago, I was able to ride around at GT Bray Park with Mrs. Bray, and you look at that and to see the legacy of what those gentlemen did is great, but they wouldn't have done it without their wives. So, I just want to shout out to the family of Mrs. Eason and all of what their family has done, over the years and continues to do locally with the children and that. So,
Well, and if I may, sir, one of Mrs. Eason's daughters is Susan Harrigan, who's married to Bob Harrigan, the weatherman from Channel 40, and he lost his mother Sunday.
So, and that's, you know, we'll have the funeral for Mrs. Easton tomorrow, and they have to fly right up to Ohio. So, you know, you look at the history of all of us, but, you know, it's a team effort, and that's one thing that's going to continue to be important. And the weather has been so great this month. Let's keep it going for 2 more weeks. It's rained at night and not during the day when the games are. So it's been great to see. So at this time, I'm going to bring up Chief Bevan to give us kind of a synopsis. So, you know, I'm not trying to make light of traffic, but traffic relevance is time. And one of the things we're trying to do with baseball is baseball has done a great job at speeding up the game. So instead of getting over at 4:30 when traffic is at its worst, the games are getting over sometimes at 3:15 to 3:45. So we're able to get some traffic out of here with the great help of our Bradenton Police Department.
Absolutely. And the mayor asked me to come up and talk a little bit about traffic, but I'm going to use the occasion to mention a few other things. I do plan on getting with you all individually. Probably in about a month, our annual report is getting ready to come out, and that's always the time I like to sit down with you all and just have one-on-ones about where we're going, what we've done, and any ideas you may have to get us moving in the right direction. That being said, award season is around the corner, where we're going to recognize a lot of our folks for their annual awards and the things that they've done over the past year. So that's always an exciting time. The new unit that I discussed previously and that you all provided some funding for is up and running. They went through a training week. They're working together right now as a group, and next week they start responding out there as separate squads with 7-day coverage. So we expect a lot of good things from them. They're working hand in hand with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, and I think it's going to be a game changer for us when it comes to some of our more violent crimes and areas of concern. I've already seen their daily reports, and they're doing a great job out there. Speaking of the new unit and speaking of your approval of them, you all approved some additional funding today, opioid funding for another vehicle. That opioid funding is really being put to good use, I will tell you, within the department, and I'm going to also say throughout the city. Recently, we had a donation of some AEDs, I think 23 of them, which outfitted the remainder of my patrol cars. But when I was in the airport a couple weeks ago and had the occasion to be involved with some life-saving maneuvers for an individual with an AED in the airport, it reminds me that it really shouldn't even just be the folks in the patrol car. It should be every car we have out there with the police department. And so we're going to be coming to you all next and asking for some additional funding from the opioid money for some final AEDs to put back in the detective cars. Those are the ones we took out initially. That's really a great device, and the ones we're using it on the most is not only our the population that needs it, but also those folks suffering from opioid addiction. We're using it a lot more than you guys probably even imagine. So speaking of our elderly, we're getting ready, just so you all are aware. I think the mayor's joining me tomorrow in a meeting. I'm not sure. I'll talk to you about that. BPD is trying to take the lead on forming a multidisciplinary team task force within the 12th Judicial Circuit to identify and combat elder abuse and fraud. I had the occasion to go to a summit in DC about a month ago. I was a little disheartened that the state of Florida probably isn't doing what we could and should be doing. We looked at some numbers internally within Bradenton, and we realized we are in the millions last year alone, our city, for elder financial fraud. And I think we need to do better, and we can do better, and we will do better. But I think we need the help of other jurisdictions, because this kind of crime crosses jurisdictional boundaries. It reaches into the federal government and the state government. So we've invited a bunch of people. We're gonna see who shows up, but I'm gonna bring pizza. Maybe that'll get more people because it's over lunchtime. There's a rule about having meetings at lunchtime. You always have to bring food. So more to come on that one, but I'm hopeful. We're going to actually assign a dedicated detective, a dedicated officer, and we want to be at the forefront of that in this entire area, and so I'm excited about that. Everybody's like, why is this a new thing? I said, maybe because I'm getting old. I'm going to fit that bill here eventually, but it's just that's a very vulnerable population in our city. And And the reason we can fill that staffing need, and the reason, and I'm about to talk about traffic, that we can have this new unit is, for me, in the 8 years I've been here, I've never had more cops on the street. And I can feel it. I can feel some of the differences we're starting to make. We were able to add somebody to traffic. We were able to create this new unit. We're going to be able to dedicate somebody towards this need, and that's a good thing. And I'm going to continue to thank you guys for the raises and for the things we've done within the city and the mayor, and the support we've shown them that makes people want to come here and want to stay here, because you can tell. I can see it in our numbers. I can see it in our responses. It really matters, and more to come. We got 6 folks in the academy, and we're going to continue to raise that up until we're fully staffed. And so traffic, we were able to put another person in traffic. I've seen the difference. You may not have seen the difference. However, when it comes to some of the problems we're experiencing, the mayor and I had an opportunity to talk. I know, Lance, you and I talked. We're going to continue to hope that maybe we can find some revenue and work a little bit more closely with the county to hire a traffic engineer. Everybody argues with us, and I may be one of the ones arguing as well, that it may be a light issue as well as just a lot of people in our city, but I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a traffic engineer, and it's not something that I can figure out just by looking at pieces of paper and lights down the street, because they all can join. And so hopefully we can kind of take a deeper dive into that over the next couple months, and then we can all definitively give the answer. Here's what it's about. You've just got a lot of people here that want to go to the same areas and want to get out to the same places, and it's just how our city is built. But maybe we can suggest some alternate routes and some alternate avenues and what have you. So hopefully we can do that. In the interim, we're trying something new with baseball right now. I know everybody's not happy with what we're trying right now. I think it's important. I've worked large arenas. I do think it's important if we invite people into our city to watch a ball game that we get them out. We're trying some traffic egress control right now. I know that inevitably is going to cause east and west issues if we're opening up north and south, but we don't know until we try. And so I know that we did get some positive comments regarding getting players and participants and patrons away from the game, both yesterday and the last game, and we're going to be doing that for the remainder of the season to see if it really helps. We're willing to try anything, and so bear with us. We'll figure it out, and I'm probably getting more calls than all of y'all, I think. I don't know, but we don't know if we don't try, and I do think it's important. We're a tourist town, and we do need to accommodate that a little bit, and unfortunately it just kind of conflicts with rush hour sometimes. I had the occasion to get up there and help manage it firsthand with the new building going up. I encourage you all, they probably don't want to hear that, I got to go up to the 11th floor with a hard hat and see all the way down 9th and all the way across the water. It's a great view. I recommend all of y'all see that before somebody lives there, and you can't do that anymore. But a great view up there, and you can really get a great snapshot of what's happening in the city. And last thing, talking about kind of everything that's new. Really exciting times. I got an app put on my phone yesterday. No, you're not going to get the app. It's still in the design phases. We've been talking about Fusus for quite some time. We've dedicated a lot of money towards this. I was able to pull up on my phone every camera that has signed up to allow us to monitor, and every officer out on the street and what they're doing. You guys call frequently, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? Within a few days, I'm going to be able to hit something on my phone and tell you exactly what's going on, and then be able to find the cameras and the cores that we have given out to select businesses that put that feed into us, so that I can actually see firsthand. That's amazing for this city that we're moving into that type of technology. It's just fantastic. So a lot more to come on that.
Now, just to go to some of the traffic ideas, I mean, if you don't try something, you don't know, and I think with the couple games we've done so far, it's gotten better But, and again, I'm sitting in it. I'm watching it. And so obviously and I guess they're watching my truck as it goes down night. But I want to see if there's things we can do, because again, when you leave anywhere, if you've ever been to Tampa Stadium, if you've ever been to the Rays, if you've ever been to the Lightning, in the different areas, it takes some time. But those cities have really mastered that. And one of the things about Tampa Stadium when you leave it, or I guess Raymond James Stadium now, from a football game, is you don't get to go where you want to go. You go where they tell you. And sometimes telling us to go right is going a long way out of the way when I got to go north to come back south. So, I just think we're trying to do it to get that volume out before the rush hour really starts, which it does. But, I think that's something that you guys are doing a great job, and all of the staff is learning it. And then also worried about the non-baseball days to see it, because, my wife sometimes looks at me and goes, "Why are you going that way?" Because I said, I'm going south to go home, that I got to come back north because I want to sit in it and hear what people, when they say it. And a lot of times it's 15 or 20 minutes more than what it would normally take. And I lived in Atlanta for a year and a half in 88 and 89. And I know if I hit that 10-minute span, I would be home in 20 minutes, or I'd be home in 2.5 hours if I was 10 minutes different. So we've just got to continue to try to move it through, and then get the people that are violating the law, block the box, turning from the second lane, and again, we're going to have to explain that again, that it wouldn't matter if we had 2 left turn lanes on 6th and 9th, it's still the same volume, and it's got to stack. So, because that was one of the first questions I asked a couple of years ago, because you see some of those, and it just, so we are trying, and we're going to continue to try to move you through as quick as possible. Any questions? Comments? All right. Thank you, Chief.
And just one more thing. Yes, the most avoidable crime is vehicle burglary. And in 1986, I wasn't allowed to graduate from the police academy until I could show proficiency in wrestling an alligator, being able to tape its mouth. True story, and I have a picture. I'm not going to share it with you because I had really big hair. But true story, 1986, we couldn't graduate unless we showed proficiency.
Oh, I know there's a picture.
Maury Povich picture.
You gotta
All right, so I'm going to go to Miss Robin. Anything? You don't have to. I just wanted to, if you had anything. Being Mr. Perry, you have to wait till all the ladies go. Ms.
Yeah, just that Stantec is refreshing the survey. We'll be getting that out to you all. We're going to try to include a question about which ward they live in, so we can have a little bit of a competition in terms of who gets the most people to respond to the survey. But we're sending that out to the neighborhood associations. We're sending it out to businesses. So we're trying to distribute it as thoroughly as possible. So I'll get you something probably in the next few days. All right?
Thank you. Ms. Karen, can you come up again and just give us a little highlight of what's going on in the Gene Brown send out emails?
Yeah, I got another one and accidentally responded to.
Me too.
Yes, please be very careful with that.
Gene Brown is not sending you out emails.
No, he's not going to ask you to do gift cards. He's not going to tell you something like that. He's going to reach out to you directly in the manner that you'd normally get from him if he would need you to do something. So they're targeting you, and they're going to target the rest of you too. There's nothing we can do to stop that. It's just education at this point in time. And just take a second, look at it before you do anything. And if it's asking you to do something urgently, it's usually a spam or a phishing email.
All right, just wanted to celebrate you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Nilsa? Nothing? Okay, I just want to say hi. Thank you. And all our other women in the audience, thank you for all you do every day. And again, it's something that without you, we wouldn't be the city that we are. So, and all our councilwomen and our lucky day, Marissa for the attorney. Perfect timing. I know. I had Mr. Rudisell sick today. No. Anyway. All right, nothing else. Well, I'm just going to say one more time, go to the newsletter, get your information, and then also, if you're in the room, there's some information back there about what's going on with our, the history of our water treatment plant. And I'm going to say, Mr. Perry had mentioned Sarasota County, Sarasota City. We are very happy that our forefathers gave us the system that we have to continue to grow on, because we actually sell some of our water to Sarasota and the Braden River area at times, because we have that capability, which, you know, the Sarasota system that they're working on is going to be billions of dollars to build, because they don't have the infrastructure that our forefathers gave us. So we're working and we're doing a great job. And Mr. Perry and Mr. Williams, thank you for your leadership. And then also Dr. Burton with the CRA. He's in here and always comes and working good, because that's very important to have teamwork. So thank you. We'll be adjourned.